Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Spectrum Sports Talk. I'm here with Quentin, Haynes, and Tom Dinki. My name is Jordan Grossman, where we recap some of the biggest storylines that's going on in UB basketball this week. Now, no storyline is bigger than the suspension of sophomore star point guard Lamonte Bearden. He was suspended last game and then is expected to be suspended for the next couple of games as well for conduct detrimental to the team. Tom, what are your opinions? What do you think? What's going on with Lamonte? Is it really hurting the team as much as everyone thinks?
You know, the thing about coaches when they say suspended indefinitely, we all know that really means suspended for as long as how much we need him. You know, I mean, if the Bulls, if they lose Friday night, we're taping this Friday afternoon. I think you can expect to see Lamonte Bearden back in the lineup fairly soon. If they keep winning, they can make it longer. I think we can all agree to that, and definitely gives Coach Oates some leeway there. But I don't think it hurts as much on the court because, like I said, it can only be a few games, and you know we've seen them go 2-0 without Lamonte earlier when he was injured. Obviously, lost to Toledo last game. But they did beat Central Michigan without Lamonte Bearden in the lineup. I think where it's concerning is this guy is supposed to be your point guard, only a sophomore, but still, with so much turnover rate, he does really have to be one of your leaders. And again, we don't know what he did. Some reports out there, maybe about a drug test. We don't know for sure. But clearly he did something very wrong, and you just don't want to see that. So it does make you question, especially in light of the Justin Moss situation and everything. It's just not a good sign to be seeing one of your top players clearly do something wrong enough to be suspended in the middle of MAC play in the real stretch run. Clearly something really wrong happened.
No, this is a team. You know, they're finally getting off to a really good start. I mean, you know, they're 7-4 MAC play right now. They're still in this 2 seed.
Right. No, this was the worst time for this to happen.
You know, something was finally clicking with them. You know, something was finally getting rolling with this team. You know, they had a very rough start to a MAC play, but you know they began. They started to play a little better. Started to play a little fire underneath them. Yeah. And now they're at the top of the standings. But you know, I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, it's really a sad thing that happened to this team because you know nothing really has gone right for this team in the past couple of days.
I feel like Blake Hamilton's their best player, but Lamonte Bearden is their most indispensable player. I feel like they can try to create some of the things that he provides, but they can't get to the free throw line like Lamonte Bearden does. That's the only thing I worry about. And also, when you watch that Toledo game, there was like a stretch at the end of the game, the final 3 minutes, where not only were they not scoring the basketball, but they really couldn't create offense. The offense just seemed stuck. That's my one fear, that if he's out, let's say, 3 or 4 games because of this situation, that I worry about is that they can play well and they can play good defense and get to the point where they can win games, but I do kind of wonder in those close games, those final 3 minutes when you need someone who can simply get you a basket, if they can actually get the basket.
You know, my problem is getting to that final 3 minutes because this is a team it seems that it's deep, but in reality it really isn't. There are a lot of players who can go 3-4 fouls per game and have to be limited throughout their play. Ikenna Smart's one of them. Blake Hamilton and Willie Connor. These are the players who really have to step up. And now on a more personal level with Nikola Rakikovic back in Serbia due to his mother's passing. I mean, that's just one less player that...
Yeah, and he might not get a lot of minutes. He might not look important, but when you lose your starting point guard, a player like Raksevic, that means a lot more if he goes out.
And back on the fouls point, that's one thing that this team, it's really weird to watch them play because it's like, you don't see them get a lot of fouls, but then you look at the stat sheet and it's like one player had 4, one player had 3. And getting 3 fouls, like I feel like 3 fouls is that barometer where you start looking towards making moves in your rotation. That's when you start subbing guys out and you kind of plan for those final 5 minutes. I feel like this team constantly has 3 or 4 fouls with some of their starters, and that's been the issue really. So you lose one of your star guards, you have to move Skeet into more of a ball handling role. You have to have CJ Massenberg, who's a freshman, who I think is really talented, play a little bit more. And now you're dealing with the fouls with your big men. It kind of forces them to play maybe a guy like Kadiri a little bit more and try to stretch the time for their bigs. That could be something, an issue moving forward, but you know that's one thing you got to look at.
You know, I don't really see Lamonte Bearden defensively as a problem. I mean, you know, he was an okay defender. He was more known for his offensive game. But when in terms of playing defense and rebounding and all other facets of the game, I trust Jaron Skeet. I was able to talk to him at practice the other day, and he said that that's his natural position. He loves playing point guard. He feels really, really comfortable there. And he's been playing a mix of 2, 3, and even sometimes 4 throughout his college career. We saw some glimpses of it that he was able to play the point guard early in the season, and he did succeed with it.
Right, yeah. That Central Michigan game, he was the point guard.
Right, so I think
like 11 assists.
Right, so I think he'll be just fine. What's going to be missing is that offensive spark, and that's where another player on this team really has to step in. And Quentin, you mentioned that you liked Blake Hamilton, especially for his offensive game, correct?
Underrated. I think that he's someone who can provide offense as well as a distributor. I think because he can play the power forward position and no one in the Mid-American Conference can really defend him, that allows the Bulls to have one player who they can get the ball into. The thing that concerns me though about Skeet as the primary point guard is just operating around some of their wings. They're a team that's heavily assisted when they shoot a lot of threes. I just feel like Bearden gives them that ability to score without being created for. That's the one thing that I'm worried about. But as far as Hamilton, I feel like he's someone who can create for himself a little bit more. I feel like Willie Connor's really good coming off screen, shooting threes, getting into the corners. So I think Hamilton's going to be someone who can step up. I think Connor can be someone who can step up. I think Wigginton's a little bit underrated in his offensive role. I feel like people think he's good defensively. He's really good. But offensively, he can do a lot of different things. He can cut, get to the basket, and stuff like that. So it's a team effort.
Yeah, and like we said, I think if they lose against Ohio, which again we're taping this Friday afternoon, I think we can expect them to see in the lineup against Akron. And if not against Akron, then definitely that next game at home against Bowling Green. I don't think this is going to last very long. And again, we don't know what the exact defense is, but I think it very much determines how the team does without him. If they're really struggling, if they lose Friday, if they lose against Akron, he's definitely back in the lineup. And again, saying indefinite kind of gives you that flexibility. So we're talking about this, but it really might only be for a few games. But one interesting thing, and I don't know if you noticed this, Quentin, I really started digging into Lamonte's stats. Hadn't noticed this all season long, but he's only taken 38 three-point attempts.
Yeah, he's not.
And 8 of 38, so not even a good shooting percentage. Have you seen? Why isn't he shooting three? Are they not asking him to? Was he hesitant to?
I think he's just more comfortable going to the basket. Yeah. I think that he's like he shot I think 21% of his 21% of the team's free throws.
Yeah.
He's comfortable going to the basket. And sometimes working on a three-point shot, it takes a little bit of time.
Right.
But I think he's more comfortable getting to the basket, getting to that mid-range area, and three-point game will come when it does. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, the women's basketball team, they started off as one of the hottest teams in the entire country. Started off to a 6-0 start, where averaging close to about 55 to 60 points a game and holding defenders to under 50 points a game for those first 6 games. But as of late, they've been a team without an identity, to say the least. They've lost 2 straight and 7 of their last 9, mainly all in conference play, plummeting toward the bottom of the conference. Quentin, you had a chance to talk with Coach Leggett Jack. What's going on with that team right now?
They really just need like a third person. They need a third, fourth, and fifth person. I just feel like this team's so young. You look at that team, I think there's 1 senior on the roster. So
doesn't even play all that much.
Exactly. It's it's weird to say, but it's a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds on the team. Don't know their role yet, don't know how to play, So like Courtney Wilkins comes in, hits a couple threes, but she doesn't really play well on the defensive end. So you got to kind of modify her role to get those threes, but also like hold off on her defensive value and stuff like that. So it's a lot of figuring out a player's role, as well as you only have one player on the team who can score the basketball.
Well, that's a startling fact to me. When I saw the stats of the last game, Joanna Smith, she's the clear best offensive player. She makes everything happen for this team. But she only made 6 of 23 shots the other game. There needs to be another offensive playmaker for this team. Stephanie Reed, she's a great facilitator. She's a great floor general. She knows how to spread the floor and make the right passes. But when you see players like Cassie Alser, who I think is a great on defense, but she misses wide open 4-foot shots from the outside. Or you have Myrte Shepard, who's been playing a limited role as of late, and she's missing those same shots also. Then that has to be a problem for Leggett Jack and the rest of this team. There needs to be one more offensive spark on this team that's able to put up 15 to 20 points a game and is just as much of a threat as Joanna Smith is.
Yeah, because you have to ask yourself, like I said, Joanna Smith hit 6 of 23. On a night where she's shooting that poorly, why is she still taking 23 shots? Because they don't have anyone else. Yeah. That's the key issue. And one thing, it's interesting. We said it last week. We think the Ohio upset win, that's great for that team, but it's more of a blip on a radar rather than a trend, which it ended up being after 2 straight losses. Right. And I think everyone at the table probably agrees, we have confidence in Coach Jack as a coach. I think she's right for that program. I think, this is a down year just with a young team, but I think like it's at that point where they're just kind of throwing the kitchen sink at anything they can do to adjust. Like Maurice Shepard putting her in a lineup over Casey Hustler. I just don't get why you would do that. It kind of screams of we don't know what's going wrong, so let's just try anything. And you don't want to see that with a team because that's when you can just tell that this team is just they don't know what exactly they're doing. They're just trying anything to get better at this point.
Well, they have two big pivotal conference matchups coming up. One against Bowling Green, one against Eastern Michigan. That will really be able to tell what they're able to do for the rest of the season and beyond. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Spectrum Sports Talk. Please follow us on Twitter at UBSpecSports and our personal Twitters at Haynes the Writer, Tom Dinki, and Jordan M. Grossman. Thank you. Have a nice day.